Here we have a SAT math question. Okay, let's go to the information. If 5m negative x is a factor of x cube negative 45 or m cube, where r and m are constants and m is greater than 0, what is the value for r? Okay, so before we start solving this question, first let's understand factor theorem. Okay, let me write the stuff over here. Okay, so here say x negative a is a factor of a polynomial function f of x. Okay, so when x negative a is a factor of a polynomial f of x, we have to equate this factor to 0 and solve for x. When I equate this factor x negative a to 0 and solve for x, I'm getting x equals to a. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in this value of a x, that is I'm going to plug in this value a for x into the function f of x. So when I do so, the result of f of a must be equal to 0 because x negative a is a factor of the polynomial function f of x. Here we have a question. What if for this x negative a is not a factor of f of x? Then the result of f of a will not be equal to 0. So whenever x negative a is a factor of a polynomial function f of x, then we equate this factor to 0 and solve for x. Then whatever value we are getting for x, when I plug in this value for x into this function, it must be equal to 0. Okay, I'm going to use this factor theorem in our problem to solve it. So before that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign a function notation for this expression. So that is let f of x equals to this expression, that is x cube negative 45 times r times m cube. Okay, so since the question says phi m negative x is a factor of this expression, we can say this phi m negative x is a factor of this f of x because f of x is equal to this expression. Since phi m negative x is a factor of this f of x, to use factor theorem, what I have to do is I have to equate this factor to 0 and solve for x. Okay, now let me do it. So let me equate this factor to 0 and solve for x. So let me add x to both sides. When I do so, this negative x, positive x will cancel. I'm getting 5m equals to x. Okay, now I have solved for x. I got x equals to 5m. Okay, now what I have to do is I have to plug in this value of x, that is 5m for x into this function over here. So when I do so, that is I'm getting f of 5m. It must be equal to 0 because this 5m negative x is a factor of this f of x. So according to factor theorem, so the result of the f of 5m must be equal to 0. So to evaluate f of 5m, what I have to do is I have to plug in x equals to 5m into the function over here. So that is on the left side in this expression, I have to plug in x equals to 5m. Then I'm getting 5m the whole cube. I just plugged in 5m for this x. So here I write the rest of the stuff as it is. It is negative 45 times r times m cube equals to 0. So here we have a product of two terms 5 and m, and we have the common exponent. Whenever we have common exponent for a product, what we can do is we can distribute this exponent for each term and multiply the results. So then I'm getting 5 cube times m cube negative 45 times r times m cube equals to 0. So when I evaluate this 5 cube, it's 125 m cube negative 45 times r times m cube equals to 0. Okay, now let me write the same equation over here. 125 times m cube negative 45 times r times m cube equals to 0. Okay, so here when I look at the stuff over here on in the expression on the left side, so the numbers 125 and 45 have the greatest common divisor 5, and also they have the greatest common divisor m cube. So we can divide the whole equation, I mean each term of this equation by 5 times m cube. On the right side we have 0. So when you divide 0 by anything, it will become 0. So now to simplify this equation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide each term by 5 m cube. Let me write the stuff over here. So 5 m cube. So here this m cube will cancel. 5 goes into 5 one times, 5 goes into 125 25 times. So here m cube will cancel. 5 goes into 5 one times, and 5 goes into 45 9 times. So here we get 25 over 1, which is equal to 25. So here we get 9r over 1, that is just 9r. When I divide 0 by 5 m cube, it's still 0. Okay, now let me add 9r to both sides. According to the question, we have to find the value of r. Okay, so negative 9r, positive 9r will cancel out. I'm getting 25 equals to 9r. Okay, now I divide both sides by 9. So this 9 will cancel out. 25 over 9 equals to r. So now I got the value of r. So the value of r is 25 over 9. So we find this 25 over 9 in answer choice D. So the correct answer choice for this question is option D.